I felt a whoosh. It's the only way I can describe it. It was like a whoosh came over me, and I knew something was wrong. And I started running. And then I started crying. And then I was like, what are you doing? You got to go home. And so I got in the car, and the whole way home, I was crying and saying, I'm never going for a walk without you. I hung up the phone with you, and an hour later, got a call that my stepdaughter took her life. She was beating that thing like crazy. And then she just stopped. And when she stopped, she wasn't crying anymore. And she starts laughing. And now she's like giggling and laughing. So we start laughing together. She just hugged me and hugged me and hugged me. And she said, please don't worry, I won't hurt myself. Okay, so don't mind me if I cry. July 24th will be 7 years. And I still can't believe that. There's days where it feels like yesterday still.
Okay, so I just finished up the talk with Sue Papa. What an amazing person. This is a story of your average person being rocked by suicide, recovering from it, going on to get involved in many great ways to help so many other people and make a big impact in her life. She goes on to tell you about what she's working on in terms of organizations that she supports, how her grief has subsided over the course of time, and her words, how grief never goes away, but her shoulders have gotten stronger. So just an amazing story of this person, Sue Papa, that you have to listen to. So I hope you enjoy it. All right, Sue Papa, welcome. Thanks for being here with us today. I like I said to you before we got started here, I've been looking forward to this all week long. I'm so excited to be here with you, and I know that you have an amazing story to tell. So let me do a little introduction of you for our audience so that they know who you are, and then we can get into it. So Sue is a high school teacher, an AFSP, which stands for American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. We're going to talk about quite a bit about the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, but we're going to, so that we don't talk too much about it, we're going to call it AFSP, right? So Sue's an AFSP board member. She hosts the Out of the Darkness Walk every year in the fall. I've been to several times. It's an amazing experience. You got to go. She's a suicide loss survivor, an entrepreneur using embroidery and music to carry a message of hope. She lost her husband, Dominick, in 2019 and turned that loss into a life of service. So, Sue, welcome again. Thank you for being here. And why don't we start right out with your experience of losing Dominick, unfortunately.
Oh, okay, so don't mind me if I cry.
No worries. Take as much time as you need.
July 24th will be 7 years, and I still can't believe that. There's days where it feels like yesterday still. Dominick and I had a wonderful relationship. He was the love of my life, my best friend. We worked together. We were inseparable. We did everything together. And he was just, his nickname was Happy. So he was somebody that would just go out of his way to do anything for anyone. Was never diagnosed with any kind of mental health issues. Nobody ever saw it coming. So it was the absolute worst day of my entire life. And I just remind myself all the time, I've already survived the worst. I don't think anything can touch me after that. But yeah, so, I started on this mission because, like I said, no one ever expected this. And the day that it happened, I still don't understand what happened. I came home and he was very upset. And now, what I know now, I should have known that it was not normal. But he was angry about stuff. I don't know what it was. I spoke to people at work. You know, it was the summertime, so I wasn't at work. We worked together, by the way.
Yeah.
Dominick was the head custodian at the high school where I work. And so it was just, I don't know what happened that day. But of course, what I've learned and what I think is really the most important that I would like to put out to people, you know, he did things that night that were very out of character. He was angry about something. I knew it wasn't me, yet he wasn't letting it go. Whatever it was, he was talking about work stuff, and he was just throwing things and yelling. And then he was grilling. He loved to grill, and he was grilling. And he sat down, and usually I could like sit on his lap and be a little lovey-dovey if he was, you know, upset, and it would turn him. But instead, this time he pushed me off of him, which was totally out of character. But with me not having any thoughts in my mind that, you know, suicide was possible, I wasn't thinking that. And so I reacted in a way where, you know, I took it personal, and then I got upset, and it escalated things even further. And so we always went for a walk after dinner, and he reached a point where he went in and laid down on a bed, and I went in and I asked him to come for a walk with me because I just thought maybe that would be good. And he didn't want to go, and I didn't know what to do, so I went for the walk. And we would always go up to the school and walk the campus of the school. And I got there and I started my walking, and I felt it. I felt a whoosh. It's the only way I can describe it. It was like a whoosh came over me, and I knew something was wrong. And I started running, and then I started crying. And then I was like, what are you doing? You got to go home. And so I got in the car, and the whole way home, I was crying and saying, I'm never going for a walk without you.
Wow.
And then I came home and found him. And by the grace of God, I can only say that I was protected, because when I saw him, he looked perfect. So I have PTSD, believe me, I have PTSD, but I don't have in terms of terrible images. And I don't want to get into a lot of things, but it was firearm. So, yeah. My brother is a state police. He's retired from the state police. And so after I called 911, I called him, and he came straight over, and he grilled me about a week after, made me tell him everything that I saw, because he saw the same thing, and, you know, he wanted to make sure it was okay. But I've learned from meeting so many people that it's just, it's horrible.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah. It's just
well, thank you for sharing. I know that's not easy to do. And what I find and what we try to do here with Team Up for Hope is we just are a platform for people to tell their stories. And it's so hard for people to tell their stories, but it's so important, right? I mean, that's why you have your walk, you know, so people can come together and share and tell their stories. And the one thing, Sue, that I've learned as far as suicide goes is that no one ever saw it coming. It's amazing to me, you know. Everybody I talk to at the walks that, you know, gets into their story, and everybody there, not everybody, but a lot of people there are very willing to share, at least in that space. And it was really eye-opening to me the first time I went to hear everybody say, we never would have thought, you know. So as we go on here and talk, we're going to kind of unpack that a little bit and talk as to why that is. But What is it like to navigate that grief, right? That specifically for you. Let's talk about you a little bit. I mean, it's really hard, because it's like hard not to blame yourself, right? Like in hearing your story, like you could easily blame yourself for a lot of a lot of the incident that went down. But
Absolutely.
you can't, right?
No, I can't. And even if you don't want to blame yourself, sometimes you want to blame someone.
Right.
So, I mean, I knew I didn't set him off that night. I would so desperately wanted to understand, like, what the heck happened. So honestly, I wanted to look up his phone records and get a copy of his phone records, because I spoke with people at work and they were like, oh, when he left, he was belly laughing with us. And then he went with his best friend who has a landscaping company. And so, I talked to him and I'm like, how was he? Did he say anything to you? What was going on? And he said he was fine. He was fine. So all I was thinking was that something happened from the time he left Joey to the time he got home. And all I could think was somebody called him. And I wanted so bad to get those records. And my brother, my voice of reason, said to me, I'm not going to tell you not to do it, but I want you to think about, what is it going to do? What is it going to do? It's not going to bring Dominick back. And besides that, he said he might have gotten a call from somebody that it wasn't the person who set him off. Like, maybe that wasn't the reason, but now you're going to blame someone.
Yeah. And then you'd harbor resentment for the rest of your life against that person. That's interesting.
So I didn't. And I think that there's stages in your grieving process. And I think that one of the stages is, I think, just accepting it for what it is. And it was like a big epiphany to me when I finally just was able to say, I don't understand it. I'm never going to understand it. All I can do now is pour my heart and soul into helping educate people who were like me prior to, that never thought it could happen. Never thought it would happen. Because now after doing all of this work and I look back, I should have recognized that day as the perfect storm that everybody talks about. It was different. It was different from any other time.
Interesting. And that's part of what you're doing, right? Is to get people to understand what those are. I mean, do you want to go into that a little bit right now, just for the sake of helping people understand what some of those signs may be?
Yeah. So, there's triggers and what's the word I'm looking for? Not triggers. There's traits, maybe.
Okay.
That are characteristics,
sure.
Right? That people, they tend to see them. And it doesn't mean that if you have that, this is going to be the end road. But it does mean that it puts you at a higher risk. And I think that that's something that, I would like people to understand, that, we all have it. We all have these character traits, which then leads you to believe that, I went for a long time, I didn't trust anybody. I'm like, if you could do this, anybody could do this. And I still kind of live with that, but you have to trust people as well, And so I think that just things like, he had a hot temper, and we knew it. And
in general, or just that particular day?
No, in general, he could have a hot temper. Like, he would easily be able to go off the wall, never harming anyone.
Sure.
But not something that your everyday average person would do. So he had OCD. We know that, never diagnosed with it, but he had it. He knew he had it, and he knew he was like that. And it's kind of sad now I think about it, because like, you know, a lot of the guys at work, and I'm not saying this to say that they contribute in any way. I don't mean that, but I just, in general, like, we don't always take those things seriously. And of course, Dominick didn't ever want to, I think, portray it as being an issue for him.
Mhm.
So like, he would get messed with all the time at work, and people would move this stuff around on his desk. He would laugh and he would joke about it, but I don't know, maybe it really did bother him. I don't know.
Interesting.
Yeah. So there's just, you know, things, you know, he was probably drank a little bit more than your average person. I should say he did drink a little more than the average person. So, you know, that's one of those things that tends to go along with it. So not anything that you want to classify, just you want to be aware of and say, well, you know, maybe if I had known that these things were traits of someone who takes their own life, that maybe on that day I would have recognized that it was different from
something more serious. Yeah. So just to recap, to read back what you're saying, and so that I understand, OCD, temper, and alcohol. Those three things mixed together in the wrong proportions could be deadly, is essentially what you're saying. Interesting. I just learned something. That's great. Thanks for sharing.
And access to firearms, right?
Right. Of course.
So that's one of the things that I know now, you know, I wouldn't have left him alone. And I would have, you know, taken his guns and put them somewhere, even just hide them from him, knowing that he wasn't in a good frame of mind.
Yeah.
But I didn't know to do that.
Yeah, well, you know, we can't blame ourselves, right? So this leads me to the next part of your story, kind of a turning point that you had in your grief, where things were just kind of, you know, tough for a long time for you. And then there was a call from an old salon client, right? So tell us a little bit about that, what happened there in that moment where, you know, you say to God, okay, I can hear you. And let's also talk a little bit about your faith journey as well.
Okay. So, well, I lost my dad on the year anniversary of Dominick.
To the day?
To the day.
Wow.
To the day.
Wow.
Yeah. And everybody was really extra worried about me. But it was actually like something that brought me a little bit of peace, because I would, you know, ask Dominick every day. My dad had dementia. He was living at Valley View, and it was during COVID. And so we weren't able to go and visit him, you know, like we usually did. And so I would just ask him, and Dominick adored my dad. And so I would ask him all the time, please be with him when he goes, please be with him when he goes. And the day my dad passed, on that anniversary, we knew it was bad. And we were called in the day before saying, you know, that we could come and see him. So we went and saw him. And then the day he passed was on the anniversary. And ironically, I was on the treadmill. So it was like that messed with
walking again.
That messed with my head. Yeah. But it gave me peace, because I think it was the only day he could have gone that I truly would have believed that, you know, my prayers were answered. So yeah, I lost my dad. And then 6 months later, I lost my dear friend to cancer. And the day after that, I lost Dominick's dad to COVID. And so I went through a really, it was like one after the other. It was bad. It was bad, but I survived it. And then, you know, I always kind of had things in my mind that, what can I do? What am I going to what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And oh, by the way, I should say this too. I'm sorry to everyone because I really, truly believe that I'm the person who brought COVID on. You know, Dominick passed in July and I had to go back to work in September. And, you know, we worked together. So going to that school and was a challenge. And so we started that September and I would pray every day going in, please, please, I can't come here every day. I wasn't healed. I wasn't even beginning to heal. It was only 2 months later, you know, and then we got shut down and I had to teach from home and it was a blessing for me. Truly was a blessing for me.
Gave you time to heal.
Yeah. So anyway, so then to get to the story, her name is Alice and I was a hairstylist before I was a math teacher. And I worked for 15 years at a salon called Cut Above. And there we had this whole family, Alice's whole family would come, her sisters, her kids. And so she, back in, when was this? 2023, I think. She went
so
in
4 years later.
Yeah.
4 years later.
She went in to get her hair done and she was saying she needed a tutor for her great grandson. And so my boss, who owned Cut Above, said, you got to call Sue. So she texted me and I was at work. So I was shocked. But I said, I'll call you when I get out of work. So I got home, I called her. We talked for like an hour and a half on the phone, just catching up. You know, we knew each other so well. We knew families, but it had been like 27 years since I had seen her.
Wow.
So Dominick was a second marriage for me.
Okay.
So she did not know that I was even married to Dominick. And then so as we're talking about our lives and the kids and everything and the story, Dominick came up and we hung up. And the next day I get a text from her and it said exactly, I don't know how you do it. I hung up the phone with you and an hour later got a call that my stepdaughter took her life. And I was actually at a winery with my coworkers when I received this text and I had to leave. It took me to my knees. And so I got home, I came home and I just started asking what, why. 27 years I hadn't spoken to this woman, 27 years. And I was like, okay, I hear you. And that was the day that like, it was like a flame just started burning in my belly. You know, you get fire inside of you and I'm just like, this is just enough. And what I also found out that weekend was that a friend of mine from high school, who I also was a hairstylist with, she had lost her son to suicide. I think this was October. She had lost her son in September. And so I just started looking up statistics about stuff and I came upon the 988 number and statistics about that. And at that time, the statistics were that there was only 64% of the American people knew of that 988 number. So that's where I started. And I just started talking to people about it. And I couldn't believe when I would speak to people because I didn't want to believe, I couldn't believe that statistic. And then when I started talking to people, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is real because nobody knew about it.
Yeah. So that led you to Judy Batista somehow, right? Our friend in common, Judy.
Judy from Warwick Cares. Yeah, she's a doll. I met Judy in 2020. I did my first Out of the Darkness walk. My family and friends riled with me, and we did the Out of the Darkness walk. And Judy was doing a butterfly release that day, and she gave me a butterfly. And so I met her there, and then had conversations with her here and there. But that moment, I was like, I got to reach out to Judy. So I went to Judy, and she was doing a Talk Saves Lives training because she's a board member for AFSP as well. And so I went to that, and I reconnected with Judy. And then, you know, just from there, she told me to reach out to Maria Idoni, who's the area director for the Hudson Valley chapter. And I reached out to her, and they needed somebody on the board, and I jumped right in.
Great. And I'm sure that's been a big part of your healing process, right? Is just to get involved.
Huge.
Yeah.
Huge. Connections. Amazing. The people that you meet and the stories that you hear, and yeah, that's been my healing.
Probably dulls the edges a little bit. It never quite goes away, the pain, right? But maybe it's a little less sharp now because of the interactions with others.
Yeah, well, actually the man who I took the seat on the board from, his name is Rob Hennessy, and he runs a support group. So I got involved with attending his support group. But he said to me, I think it was probably only a couple weeks after I lost Dominick, and he said to me, I wish I could tell you, and he'll tell you this is not him. He heard this from someone else. So I don't know who originated it, but it's so true. He said, the pain will never go away, but your shoulders will get stronger to carry it. And there's been nothing more true than that.
That's good. That's a good way.
You get stronger. You do. You get stronger.
So
forget. You know what? You don't want to not. And when I say you don't want to forget, it's not that you don't want to forget that day. But you don't. You carry them with you. Your love, the love that you die. So
sure, yeah. You know, one thing I've learned in my journey here with mental health, awareness, and breaking the stigma and all these things is that if you're somebody that is talking, so like if you and I are talking, it's actually healing for you if I talk with you about Dominick. I think a lot of people counterintuitively think that they shouldn't talk about it.
They don't.
But it's actually very good for the person that you're with to talk about their loved one.
Absolutely.
The good days, the memories, how those sorts of things. It's actually important to do that. And I think a lot of people in the general public don't know that, because I didn't, before a few years ago when I was in a NAMI training of some sort, and I learned that. And that was profound for me. You know, I lost my nephew in 2019 as well, same year. Not too far off the date that you lost Dominick. And that was a really horrendous. I didn't lose him to suicide, but it was a substance use issue, and it was terrifying and horrifying. And I found myself in an airport in Ireland when it happened, and just, couldn't stop crying, just lost control. And what I think has been good for my brother and his wife is when I talk with them is talk about him, all the great stories and the memories that we have. So I think that's a really important message. I'm glad that we kind of got down that rabbit hole,
It is. And I think people hold back because they don't want to, it makes them uncomfortable. Like, because especially in the beginning, you're going to cry.
Yeah.
You're going to cry. And, nobody wants to be the person to make you cry. So they don't understand that even though you're releasing that, and the more you release it, like just let yourself go. It's okay. Let yourself go. And as time goes on, you start realizing that, wow, I didn't curl up in a ball today.
Yeah.
Tried, but I wasn't curled up in a ball. And then
Right.
it was okay. I cried, but I didn't cry all day.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's those little steps that you realize that you are healing as you go.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and I think, especially for, you and Judy in particular, involvement, I think is a key too. So I love there's two stories I loved about the info that you gave me. I want to get to the piñata second. That's
Yes.
great story. But let's talk about the little nudges, right? I call them God winks, right? My mother-in-law calls them God winks. I picked that up from her. And it's so true, right? Like there's all these little instances in our life where it's God speaking to you through other people, right? And you have to pay attention to it. You have to be aware of it to accept the wisdom that's being given to you, divine wisdom. So tell me a little bit about that Nashville story. It's really profound.
Nashville. Yeah. So I lived with my brother for about a year and a half. I couldn't live here in the house. And so I lived with them, and I was never a country music person. My brother and sister were. So they, listening to the music, and I just got into listening to the music. And I would get like these little nudges about things that I should be doing. And one morning I just woke up and I was like, I have to go to Nashville. And I didn't know why I was saying that.
How random is that, right?
I've never thought about going to Nashville ever.
Wow.
And I was like, I need to go to Nashville. Oh, and I have to preface this, first of all. When I was living with my brother, maybe 2 or 3 days after losing Dominick, I made a statement and I said, I just wish he took me with him. And my brother said, nope, nope. And he had a backroom song, being an investigator with the state police, that he used to play for the investigators when they were doing things and they would get down. And it was called If You're Going Through Hell, Rodney Atkins. And he made me listen to that song. He said, you're listening to this song every single day. And it, grew on me. And I was just like, okay, so it helped. And I also later on found out it was a song that during one of the wars, I don't remember which one, but the troops would play it every day in their tanks. They listened to this song. So if you haven't listened to it, you really should. Anyway, so when I said I wanted to go to Nashville, then it was the summertime and I was like, okay, well, we've got all summer and we'll go to Nashville, and it kind of pushed it aside, but stayed in the back of my mind. So the end of the summer came and I was like in a panic because school was going to be starting. It was 2 weeks before school and I had to go. I just had to go to Nashville. So my sister-in-law booked a trip for the 3 of us to go for 5 days. And it was great. We went on our last day in Nashville. We are walking down Broadway and we're just walking, minding our business. And this man approaches us and says, have you been to Printer's Alley? And we're like, what's Printer's Alley? We didn't even know about Printer's Alley. So he says, oh, you got to go down there. There's some, great bars down there and live music and blah, blah. And so we're like, okay, let's go check out Printer's Alley. So we walk there and we go into, he specifically said this one bar, and now I'm blanking on the name of the bar. It might come to me, it might not, doesn't matter.
No worries. There's many, many great bars in Nashville.
Yeah, so we walk in there and there's no live music. My sister-in-law, whatever she was drinking, they didn't have it.
Wow.
The owner was there. And so we talked to him a little bit and he says, come back later. Live music is starting at this time. And I promise I'll run and I'll get the drink you need.
Okay.
So we went and did some line dancing and had dinner, and we were getting ready to go back, get in our Uber and head back to our Airbnb. And my brother says, no, nope, we got to go back and give that place another try. So we go back there, and I'm sitting, they had live music. I'm sitting there in my little stool, and my brother and sister-in-law are off to the side. And I look up and I see them talking to these two men, and didn't think anything of it. And next thing you know, this man walks up to me, introduces himself to me, and says, "You should date me." And that's and I don't know, I looked at him and I trusted him immediately. I don't know why. And so him and I got talking, and I actually got up and danced with him, and we were talking. And then of course, you know, I have to tell him about Dominick. And so now I'm crying. Anyway, we get in the car, we get in the Uber, and we head back, and I exchanged my phone number or whatever. And he calls the next day. And he's like, you don't go. Don't go home. He's telling me, don't go home. Stay, I'll come get you. And crazy as it is, my brother and sister-in-law were telling me I should stay. And I was like, I'm not staying. I don't know this man. Sure. By myself. I come home, and he keeps calling, and he keeps calling, he keeps calling. And I go down to get on my treadmill. I had talked to Dominick's stepmother, and she was like, you're not going, you're not going. I went down to get on my treadmill, and I went to open up my phone, and a notification pops up on my phone that says, just book it. And I went, what? So I call the guy, and I said, are you serious about me coming back? I have a week before I have to start school. And he says, yep, I'm serious about you coming back. I said, are you married? He says, no. I said, do you have a girlfriend? He says, no. I said, okay. So I hang up, and I call my brother, and I said, I think I'm going to go. I'm going to get a suite right on Broadway. I'm going to bring stuff with me. I'll go out and have dinner with this guy. If it doesn't work out, I'll stay in my suite for the weekend and have my own
little Nashville
vacation. Yeah. I had never traveled anywhere by myself before. Never thought that I would ever travel anywhere by myself, but I had the courage to do it because I had just been there and done the airport thing. So and so I did. It was so empowering. It was exactly what I needed for my next phase of my healing. And it turns out that the man is a music producer and is best friends with a guy named Sam Tate, who is the songwriter of If You're Going Through Hell.
Right. Isn't that crazy? Right. Amazing.
So we've had, actually, we did a concert up here at the Tin Barn. We brought some bands up, and Sam Tate came and did acoustics, and actually him and his wife stayed at my mom's house.
Wow. That's amazing. I didn't know that.
So
that's
it's
cool.
like, I spent probably about 1.5 years traveling with this man, and you know, it was more of a friendship than anything else. And it was great. And it was exactly what I needed to gain my independence and to
move forward.
To move forward. And
It's a big step in the process.
Yeah. So that was a huge nudge that I listened to. And it was great.
So there's this funny story about a piñata.
Yeah,
at one of the walks, and it's a really cool story about this young girl, right, who it helped change. So we have enough time here. Let's get into that, and then I do have some other questions. I want to talk a little bit more about your organizations and what's going on with the school, with NAMI. I think that's really exciting.
Yeah.
like I said, there's so much to talk about and unpack
Yeah.
here. We're not going to get it all done in an hour, but
Okay.
we got to hear the piñata story. Let's go.
Got a story. So I can be a little, I don't know what, eccentric maybe when it comes to ideas. Like I get these ideas and I just go with them, and they don't, always work out, but
It's okay.
oftentimes there's like great stories like this that do. So I encourage you, if you get an idea and you think it's going to be stupid, just do it.
Go for it. There you go.
Yeah. So for the Orange County Walk last year, no, not last year, 2 years ago, it was my first time chairing the walk. So I was like, oh, and I'm like, okay, well, I got to do all these great things. And what can I do? And we have this stigma tree that is done at the walks, and it's typically on a piece of paper, and you draw a tree, and then there's different colored stickers that correspond to the different mental health conditions. And people come and they, take their color sticker and they put it on the tree, and as the day goes on, the tree gets full. And the idea is that the walkers won't feel so alone with whatever their struggles are. They see, everybody. And so we called that breaking the stigma.
Mm-hmm.
Well, for me, I was like, well, we need something literally to break the stigma.
We need to break something.
Yeah. So
I like it, Sue. I like it.
So I said, you know what? I've never done this before, but I was like, okay, I think I can make a piñata.
Uh-huh.
So I made this horrific looking tree piñata, filled it with candy, painted it, put, leaves on, and then we were still doing the stickers and bring it to the Orange County Walk. And I put people in charge. It was my first time, so I was running around like mad and put somebody in charge. Well, they couldn't find somewhere to hang the piñata. So the piñata, it got the stickers on it, but nobody ever broke it. Like we didn't even take one swing at it.
Right.
So I was like, at the end, I was like, oh, this thing was, it was ugly anyway. It was so stupid. And I'm just
you almost threw it away, right?
Just gonna throw it away. Yeah. And Maria's like, no, you put so much effort into that.
Yeah.
Bring it to the Duchess Walk. So I was like, all right. And I was kind of embarrassed to bring it to the Duchess Walk because I'm like, it's so hideous. But I went to the Duchess Walk to help, and Maria's husband found a spot. I was like, I don't know where I'm going to find a spot. He said, I'm finding a spot for this. So he did. We found a spot. We hung it up. People were still putting their stickers on it. And the ceremony starts, and I was working the raffle table, and behind me was the activities table. And I hear sobbing. And I turn and look, and there was a young girl. I'm guessing she was probably about 20, in that range somewhere. And she was just sitting at a table sobbing. So I went over to her and I sat by her and I tried to talk to her, and she was just heartbroken and sobbing and not really saying too much, but I did get her to calm down a little bit. And I went back to my table, and that went back and forth, and she would be sobbing again, and I would go back. But every time I went back, she opened up a little bit more, and I would, tell her a little bit more about myself. And so I asked her about something that revolved around joy. And she told me that, no, she couldn't feel joy. So she never told me exactly who it was that she lost or when she lost somebody, but I'm assuming that that's what it was. And I'm assuming it was a sibling, because she said that her mom and dad make her feel a lot of shame if she feels joy. So then I asked her, do you ever get angry? And she said, no, I start to, and then I just get overwhelmed with sadness. And that hit me so hard, because I would be asked that all the time about Dominick. And don't you get angry?
Right.
And I could never get angry. I could
Mhm.
never get angry. And I felt exactly that. Like I would start to get angry and then I would just be overcome with sadness that I
Hmm.
couldn't be angry.
So interesting, right? Because it would just seem so logical to be angry.
Yeah. But for
Yeah.
some people, you can't. Some
Yeah.
people can, but I couldn't do it. I
Hmm.
couldn't do it. However, after losing my father-in-law, when I had those
Yeah.
back-to-back losses, I was sitting on my back deck and I felt very claustrophobic. It was a beautiful day in May, and I felt so claustrophobic. And I went and got a sledgehammer and I sledgehammered my railings completely off of my back deck, opened up, and I sat down and I felt so much better. So when that,
Were you like planning to renovate the deck, or was that just something random that you did?
it was just random, and it was
Wow.
exactly just what I needed.
What
I
you
still,
needed. Yeah.
my back deck is only like, 2 feet off the ground. It's
Uh-huh.
not.
Uh-huh.
So it's remained like that, and it's so open, and it changed the whole perspective of my backyard, and I just felt relief. So when I was at the Duchess Walk and this girl said that to me, and it hit me. And
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
I said, I know what you need to do. I said, have you ever hit a piñata before? And he looked at me like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, you have to come with me. So
Yeah.
I bring her over and she's reluctant. And so I hit it. And I was so afraid to hit it because I made it and I thought it was just going to break. And then she wasn't even going to have an opportunity. But I hit it a couple times and I was like, do you want to try? I said, just take a deep breath and just whatever you're thinking, whatever is hurting, just whack it. And she did. And I'm going to tell you, it was the most beautiful thing that I've ever seen in my entire life. And there were some people around, like the walk had started, but there were some people that were lingering around that were watching too. And everybody was just like in awe. She was crying and she was beating that thing like crazy. And then she just stopped. And when she stopped, she wasn't crying anymore. And she starts laughing. And now she's like giggling and laughing. So we start laughing together. And then we get somebody, we asked her, do you want to walk across the bridge? And she's like, yes, I do. So she walked with some college kids across the walkway and then came back. And when she came back, I almost didn't recognize her. She looked just so different. She was so calm. She was smiling. You could just see the lightness, like this load just lifted off of her. And she just hugged me and hugged me and hugged me. And she said, please don't worry, I won't hurt myself. And in my mind, that was like such a concern for me because I was like, I'm going to leave this walk and I'm just going to be so worried about this girl. And so the fact that she said that
Actually said that, yeah, came out on her own volition.
I needed that, and she knew what I knew what she needed, without knowing, and she knew what I needed without knowing. And it's just incredible when things like that happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really important. These walks are a fabulous thing for those that have been affected by suicide. I can't say enough good things about it. So if you're listening to this and you're somebody who has a family member, a friend, acquaintance that lost their life to suicide, it definitely, and we'll put it in the show notes and everything so that you can get connected with Sue and the walk and all that. So cool. So I want to talk a little bit about, I think this is a really important thing, what's going on in the schools, because I, like you, agree our young people need more help. Processing anxiety, I think, is a big thing right now. It causes a lot of mental health issues. So you had mentioned in your intake form that for 2 years you were fighting to get a mental health club at your high school where you teach, and we're always told no, but something broke and something changed. So tell us a little bit about what changed and why suddenly now it's allowable and what you're doing with it.
Yeah, I don't really know what changed, honestly. I had tried, well, maybe the one thing that changed was a student went and asked for it.
Okay.
So I had been asking and
Mm.
saying, we really could use a mental health club, and I would be more than willing to be the faculty advisor. And I was constantly got pushed back that it would have to be run by a professional. And I would, I understand their reason for it. However, I think that they didn't understand really what I was meaning when I said a mental health club. I think that they couldn't get out of their head that, like, I think they were thinking it was going to be therapy session, and that's not the intention.
Sure, because you're not a licensed practitioner and all that. Yeah, right.
We don't do that. And I run a support group for suicide loss survivors, but I'm not a professional with these teens, but you don't have to be a professional to bring awareness to things that are healthy for them and to introduce them to things that are healthy for them, and that was my intention, was to get them to focus a little bit more on things and maybe, get them to do things that they wouldn't normally do, because it's scary to try something new, so you could say, oh, well, try yoga, but if you don't have anyone to go with you to try it, it's not something that everybody can do.
Right.
So anyway, this year I had, you know what it was? I went to the leadership conference for AFSP, and I had to ask for permission to take 2 days off of work, and they were very kind and they let me go to this conference and miss 2 days. So when I got back from the conference, I asked if I could meet with, central administration, because I wanted to share with them, how valuable it was for me and what I learned. And the assistant superintendent was very receptive, and he came and he met with me, and he expressed to me for the first time the need for bringing suicide prevention to the school. And so Sean Giroux, who is our board chair, works for the Middletown Health Association and is QPR trainer. So we hooked up him up with the school, and we brought suicide prevention training to the faculty, staff, and the students. So it was beautiful. And at the same time, there was a young girl who came to me and said, I want to start a mental health club. Would you be the advisor? So I said, yeah, put it in. And I went and I talked to my principal again, and I said, she's putting in, the paperwork for it. And suddenly they were like, yeah. So
wow. Interesting. And is this the NAMI on campus?
Yeah. So you know what? So we were starting the club anyway. And then I was looking, online for guidance for
sure.
what you should be doing,
what to do and how to run it. Yeah.
And I discovered that that NAMI has this NAMI on campus. So I reached out to them, and we got started with it. I wish I could say that it's going wonderful. It's challenging. Sure.
And, well, it's like anything else, it starts slow, but you stay with it and it builds. Yep.
So it's good. The kids need it. As a teacher, I've got a couple students out now because they attempted. Young kids, it's heartbreaking. It does not discriminate.
Right.
We all say that, and it's so true. And, we just need to be educated.
Yeah. Sue, the conclusion that I've come to after now, going on 7 years like you I've been dealing with the mental health arena for a very long time because bipolar runs in my family, and I've never been diagnosed myself, but I certainly as I get older, I find myself dealing with a lot more anxiety. It's just it's overwhelming at times. But I've come to the conclusion that everybody deals with mental illness. There is not one human being on planet Earth that does not deal with some level of mental illness. I just think that some of us are a little bit more naturally able to handle it better than others. And then others of us, and I think I fit into this camp a little bit more, where I certainly deal with anxiety, like everybody else, but I think I get a little bit more than just your average person. But I have a thirst for knowledge. This is why I'm doing what I'm doing here for Team Up for Hope. And I learn and I work at it, and it's just something, that's how I deal with it. I kind of work at it and do things like this that help me, process things and make the world a little bit brighter, just by talking and connecting with people, like you had said. So we're kind of coming up on the hour here. And like I said, there's so many more things to talk about, but what I just want to know, what else do you have going on that you want to talk about organizationally? You have the Out of the Darkness Walk. You have
we've
the
got
NAMI
the Out of the Darkness walks. We have the Talk Saves Lives. And they've expanded that now where, they make it specific. They just came out with one for the LGBTQ community. We've got for the veterans, so they're narrowing it to be more specific for specific groups. We have a program called Finding Hope. So it's an educational training program specifically geared for anyone who is supporting someone who's struggling. So that's really important. Not always do people know where to turn,
right?
How to help.
Well, that was one of my questions, actually, is that, if someone has recently, just lost someone to suicide and they don't know what to do, like what should their first step be?
Well, I would say we have, are you talking about AFSP?
I'm talking about anything in general. Somebody listening to this might live in Arizona.
Yeah, well, AFSP is national. It's like there's chapter, it's all across the world. United States and Puerto Rico, we've got chapters. But I would say if they reach out to AFSP, if they've lost someone, we've got a program called Healing Conversations that I'm proud to be part of. And it's trained suicide loss survivors, and they connect you. They try to connect you with someone who's got a similar loss. But if they don't have anyone in the area, so they try to keep it in the area, and it can be a Zoom call, it can be a phone call, it could be in person. But I think anyone who newly has lost someone, I think there's nothing more valuable than for them to have a conversation with someone who has been through it and understands it.
And FSP can get them connected to that person.
Absolutely. And if they don't have anyone that can take the call, like my last call, I met online with a woman, an Asian woman from New York City, who lost her father when she was 13 years old.
Oh, wow.
She's a grown woman now.
But she's just, the grief is hitting her again. Yeah.
And she was looking for support groups, but she came upon this number and she reached out, and I don't know how they didn't have anyone in New York City that could take that call. Like her and I are so different in every way, but what we connected and we found commonality. She found dad, and then I found my husband, and that alone, it doesn't matter anything else. That right there, we had an understanding that you could be a trained professional, but if you have not experienced that, it's same. It's, so I think that's the biggest thing, is that I would encourage them to call when they're ready. They'll know when they're ready. Yeah.
Well, I want to let everybody know that AFSP is a great organization that we donate to every year through your Out of the Darkness
Thank
walk.
you.
And I, of course, and I would encourage anybody who's listening, if you feel so compelled, to donate to AFSP. I think it's one of the great things we can do as people. You know, it's hard for me to find the time to, you know, be in the weeds, so to speak, like you are, Sue. I think you're doing the heavy lifting. But what I can do is I can tell people that I know
Yeah.
about these issues who may
Yeah.
not think about this type of thing, to get them to think about it, and then to open up their wallets, right? Because it's really important.
Yeah.
And that's what we're after here with Team Up for Hope. We're just trying to get everyday common people who don't think about these issues to be aware of them,
Yeah.
and to support great organizations like AFSP. So
Yeah.
thanks for doing your part there. All right. Let me push on to, I want to talk about this little online store that you're working on with embroidery. I think that's kind of cool. Tell me a little bit about that real quick, and then we're going to go into the rapid fire round.
Okay. Yeah. So I took to sketching after losing Dominick. Immediately just wanted a sketch pad, and I actually, without having any formal art class training, I sketched a portrait of my then newborn grandson, and it was by meditation. It was the only thing that I could do that got me out of my head.
Sure.
I would sit for hours and just sketch anything. And then soon after that, I don't know actually what made me turn to embroidery. I don't know what that happened, but all of a sudden I wanted to make something. I must have
another little God wink.
So I bought myself an embroidery machine, and I started doing embroidery. But of course, I was purchasing other people's designs. I was like, yeah, I want to make my own designs. Like, I want to do this art. So I bought a program called Hatch, which is an embroidery digitizing program. And I just watched videos, and I self-taught for embroidery and making my own designs. And so with that came, I started making little butterflies. I have one. And these are just simple because I got to be able to make a lot of them. I'm sorry, I walked away from the camera. I hope you don't mind.
No problem.
I want to show you. I'll show you a couple things so you can see. So I started making these little, I called them butterfly moments. Can you see that?
Yeah, I can. Yeah, very cool.
So it's just old fabric that I had that I stitched a little butterfly, and I just put a little note on it that says, I'm not lost. I was meant just for you. I'm a butterfly moment. It's simple and true because everyone deserves a little sunshine. And then I had You Are Brave, and it's a little iron-on patch. And I just started, I made a ton of these, and everywhere I went, I would bring some with me, and I would leave them like in restrooms or, you know, just out on the street somewhere where I thought people would find them. And it gives me another part of the healing. Like I was helping people. So it started like, you know, with that. And then I just got into, the more I got involved with different organizations, nonprofits like Judy's nonprofit. And I just started making things and taking them when I went tabling, and I would sell them or I would give them away. And if I sold them, I would, you know, donate the profits to whoever's event it was.
Sure.
Or act through music. But recently, within the last 2 or 3 months, I started getting hyper focused on making car air fresheners.
Yeah, I read that. Yeah, that's interesting.
So like this is,
Can you hold that up a little bit more, because I can't quite see it. It says stronger than my coffee.
Yes, it's coffee cup.
I love that. I love that.
So I'm just, so what happened was Facebook started all of a sudden showing me all these calls, all these fire calls. I don't know if you see them, but with the bridges. and and people taking their lives.
Oh, I see. I see.
And you know, things that we wouldn't typically hear about now, all of a sudden,
Because of
it's
social
like,
media, yeah, it's in front of you, yeah.
it's just happening. And I started thinking, and I'm like, you know, I love it. Like I have this shirt is made by a board member in Connecticut for the
Okay.
AFSP. Her name is Ellie, a dear friend who went through her own personal struggles, but she has this brand now. And I'm like, you know, we make the shirts and people wear the shirts. And I was like, maybe we need something in the car.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it can be a reminder. And so that is why I'm making car air fresheners.
Very cool.
And I have a little QR code on the back that quietly, you know, this doesn't shout 988. It doesn't shout mental health, I don't
Right.
think, anyway. Like a lot of things just have, you know, call, text 988, and you
Yeah.
see them and they're there, and maybe people don't want to show
Right.
that off all the
Right,
time,
right,
you
right.
know? So I was like, oh, this could be a little quiet way. And so the QR code leads to a song that was written by friends of mine, written, recorded, and produced by an engineer, what do you call him? A sound engineer in Monroe, they're the most beautiful family I've ever met. And I met them after losing Dominick, and they have become some of my best friends. I, you know, go to trivia night with them and
Cool.
do a lot of stuff with them. And he knew that I was passionate about wanting a song. And so he took it upon himself and got his family together, and they created the most beautiful song called
Very
Love
cool.
You Free.
We'll have to put that in the show notes too, so everybody listening to this can
Yes,
hear the
yeah.
song.
So I think, yeah.
Very
Yeah.
cool.
I have it attached to a QR code. And so it's played in Ireland, as a matter of fact, 10 times.
Huh.
And it made its way to, I think it's 3 different countries it's made its way to.
Great.
Kind of cool.
Amazing. Yeah, cool. So how does one get one of your air fresheners?
Well, I am going to eventually. I have not done it yet.
Okay, so it's not ready for liftoff just yet.
No, I haven't started it yet, but I will be going to Act Through Music is having an event coming up and in May. So I'm going to be tabling at her event, and I'm going to have them there for sale.
Cool.
Great. But I'm in the process. I'm going to start a Shopify, but
Great.
I just haven't gotten there yet. I've got so much stuff going on.
Yeah, you're busy. You're busy. You're doing great work. Well, I'm in for an air freshener next time.
Oh, good. You got one.
All right. So put one on reserve for me.
I will.
All right.
Appreciate you.
Yeah, likewise. So we're nearing the end here, but let's go through our rapid fire round. I'm going to ask you 5 questions that we ask all of our guests, and I just want you to, whatever comes to mind, I want you to go with it. Okay.
Okay.
So what's your go-to, I need a mental rest activity? Totally honest, no judgment.
Totally honest, no judgment. I need work on this. But connecting with my family and friends, definitely being outside. My sister and I started hiking. So this weather has been terrible. I can't wait. I need a sister day out in nature.
Yeah, there you go. Cool. So hiking, I love to hike too. In fact, you were talking about how the sketching got you completely out of the negative space and whatnot, something that completely takes you away. Golf actually does that for me.
Good.
And what specifically when I'm walking and playing golf, you know, it's because it's kind of like hiking, you know, or hiking does that for me. So something to do with walking in a beautiful space and those sorts of things. So cool. If you could put one message on a billboard that every person in America would see tomorrow, what would it be?
Love louder.
Love louder. Like that. I like that. Very good. Okay. Number 3. What's the most overrated piece of mental health advice you keep hearing?
This is tricky. I don't know if I can say anything specific other than trying to tell somebody what they should do. One thing I've learned is
I like that.
we all have different needs. You know, what works for one doesn't work for another.
Yeah.
And talk less, listen more.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. We're all so guilty of it, right? Just inserting what we think people should do.
Yeah,
I'm
because
certainly
it works
guilty of
for
that.
you. Yeah, it doesn't always work for everyone.
Yep. Very good. Very good. Do you have a book you'd personally prescribe somebody that's going through a dark time?
Yeah, the Bible.
Love it.
I just recently dusted mine off, and
Do you have the YouVersion Bible app on your phone by chance?
I do not.
It's an amazing resource.
Okay.
I highly recommend it. Yeah, there's a lot of Bible apps out there, but there's one that's prominent, and there's some really great people behind it.
Okay.
It's called YouVersion, Y-O-U. And one of the things I love to do, the way that I get a lot of exposure to the scripture, is it will give you a verse of the day, right? That pings your phone every morning. And if you tap on it, it expands it into like a word image type of thing. But there's 3 dots in the upper right-hand menu that you can click, and it says read full chapter. And then so you can read the full chapter of scripture around that quote. And, you know, none of the scriptures are very long, right? So it usually only takes a few minutes to get the full chapter in. And I just think it's great. There's a lot of God winks in that. You know, I've found that many times things that I'm dealing with, the scripture speaks directly to it. And it's just totally refreshing to hear God's word on the issues that you're dealing with, you know. So that's a good little tip. So cool. The Bible. Yep.
Yeah.
All right. And last question of the rapid fire round. What is your favorite movie or series? It doesn't have to be like related to mental health. Just what do you love? You know, what's one of your favorites?
Well, you're looking at a weirdo here. I don't have TV.
Oh, really? Good for you.
Well, good for me.
But like you don't watch Netflix or you don't use any streaming service?
If I'm at someone's house, I'll watch whatever's on. No, it's
amazing.
I don't. I you know, I have Disney Plus when my grandsons come over. But I don't no.
Have you ever seen the movie Ratatouille?
Oh,
how old are your grandkids?
They're 6 and 7. They're 6 and 7. 6, 7.
Oh my gosh. All right. So let's just leave off on this. You have to see Ratatouille. It's an amazing.
May have, but I'm not sure.
It's one of the great animated movies, and it's older now, so a lot of the younger kids probably aren't catching it, you know. Right. But I guarantee you they love it.
Yeah.
It's a great movie. It's a great movie.
I used to like watching cooking shows, but
there you go. So yeah, try Ratatouille. You will absolutely get a kick out of it. So, all right, Sue. Awesome. Thank you so much for telling your story. This is never easy to do. If you have maybe somebody else that you think would be great to tell their story, let us know about it. And anybody listening, we love to hear great stories and share them with all of you. So thanks, Sue.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye.
That's a wrap on today's episode of Team Up for Hope. If this conversation moved you, I want to ask you to do one thing, and that's to share it. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe and follow us on our socials so that you'll never miss a story. And if you or someone you know has a story worth telling, a story about mental health, addiction, or finding hope on the other side, head over to teamupforhope.org and click on share and fill out one of our intake forms. We want to hear from you. Finally, if you believe in this mission and want to help us keep these conversations going, consider becoming a sponsor. Every dollar goes right back into amplifying voices that need to be heard. Until next time, team up and never give up hope.